the Chicago Bears trade up for a quarterback in this year's draft? What is going on, y'all? Faiz Sports Talk back at it with another video talking, of course, some NFL here to talk about the Chicago Bears. So if you're a Bears fan and you are not subscribed to the channel, I highly suggest you do so because I do talk a lot of Bears and NFL on this channel. Hit the bell icon, hit the notification icon so you're notified every time I drop a new video. And guys, follow me on all my social media platforms. Links is always down below. All right, with that being said, let's get into it. All right, here we go. The NFL draft is just a few days away, and I'm hyped and I'm excited. But here's an interesting observation that I've seen, right? Every year when the NFL draft comes around, obviously the hot topic tends to be quarterback, right? We talk about the quarterbacks, who's going to be taken and whatnot. But this year, it seems like that's all people want to talk about with this year's draft. And this year's draft has a chance to be unprecedented, folks, because we're talking about 3 quarterbacks are going in the top 3 picks. We pretty much know that. The third pick, we just don't know which quarterback it is. There's a potentially could be 5 quarterbacks in the first 10 picks, right? And we're talking about maybe even 6 quarterbacks, 7 quarterbacks in the first round. It's crazy, folks. I'm seeing tweets from, NFL reporters talking about day 2 guys, second, third round guys going in the first round. Like, quarterbacks are going to get overdrafted like crazy in this year's draft, all right? So that begs the question, what are the Bears, one of, if not the most quarterback-needy teams, going to do in this year's draft to address that position, right? Now, I've come out and kind of said my position, which is I think they go with the safe pick in the first round, take a day 2 guy, in the second and third round at quarterback. But as I am seeing and reading more and more, what is the potential for the Bears to trade up now? All right, because the quarterbacks are getting overdrafted. I already told you about this. Let's walk through this right now. All right, I'm gonna walk through this with you guys. Trevor Lawrence, number 1 to the Jaguars, no arguments there. Zach Wilson, number 2 to the Jets, no arguments there. Number 3, I told you, is a question mark, but it's really between 2 guys, in Justin Fields and Mac Jones, going to the 49ers. Okay, so then you're left with Trey Lance, right? And essentially one of Mac Jones or Justin Fields. Now, let's walk through both the scenarios here. And again, I'm going to link this back to the Bears, so just work with me here. If it's Mac Jones at number 3, that means Justin Fields and Trey Lance are left. I believe Justin Fields does not get past the Broncos. And I believe Trey Lance does not get past the Patriots at 15. Broncos, I believe, are the 8th or 9th pick, and the Patriots have the 15th pick. Bears are at 20. So we're not going to get any of those guys sitting where they are now. All right. There is a very outside chance I could see Mac Jones slipping if he doesn't get drafted by the 49ers. Like, literally, I think if Mac Jones doesn't go 3, he could slip out of the top 10. But I still don't think he makes it past the Patriots. So I don't think the Bears end up with anybody sitting where they are at 20, which means at 20, you either have to reach for a guy like a Kyle Trask, whose stock is going up, like he's looking to be going at the back end of the first round, in those 20th spot, right? Or kind of where the Bears are, 20 to 29, 30, etc. And then a guy like a Kellen Mond, who's always looked at as a day 2 guy. There was no chance he was going to the first round. So either you have to overdraft those guys, or you don't end up with a quarterback in the first round. So if you don't end up with the quarterback in the first round, let's say you take, an offensive lineman or something like that, and then day 2 comes around and even the day 2 guys, Mond and Trask, are drafted before you pick again, now what? Now you're left with a Davis Mills, someone like that, right? Guys that haven't had a lot of experience in school. So basically what I'm trying to tell you folks is this seems like the Bears might get left hanging dry because teams are going to overdraft guys. So in terms of if they are going to trade up, I believe it all depends on how the draft shakes out. And this is the approach I need Ryan Pace to take in this year's draft, all right? Let the draft come to you. Do not go to the draft, all right? That is kind of how what you did with Mitchell Trubisky, right? Force your way up, and you made your conviction. Fine, it happens. Obviously, most guys would get fired for that type of conviction since it didn't work out, but Ryan Pace is a different story. We all know that. So let the draft come to you, all right? You can go ahead and go in with the plan, absolutely, But depending on what happens, let the draft come to you and kind of go from there. I've seen reports now, folks, that the Bears could trade with the Panthers, the Lions at 7 or 8, and try to trade up for a Justin Fields or a Trey Lance. What would that cost the Bears? This year's first, this year's third, next year's first. It's going to be a lot, folks. It's going to be a lot. And again, this was my whole issue in the offseason, right? Is this regime going to be here past next year? Because if it's not, I don't want to mortgage the future. But if it is, then yeah. But then again, I don't want Ryan Pace picking the next quarterback because he couldn't nail the last one. So it's like, this is such a bad spot for the Bears to be in. Honestly, folks, that's why I had them going with the safe pick in an offensive lineman. I had them taking Tevin Jenkins, and they very well still could. But point being is, as far as them trading up, it's going to be a king's ransom, right? And you're talking about a guy like a Trey Lance who might need to sit, even if you do draft him. And then Justin Fields, I like a lot as well. But again, he could go at number 3. So there's just a lot of question marks. Ultimately, folks, here's where I'm at. All right. I want to say that the Bears trade up. I really do, because that's Ryan Pace's MO. That's what he's done. But if you really were aggressive about the quarterback position, you would not have signed Andy Dalton. And that's what it comes back down to for me. What you did in free agency trickles down into the draft, because if you were as aggressive as you could be at upgrading that position in a better manner than Andy Dalton, then I would have been like, okay, I think they move up. Because they seem to be fine with Dalton as their quarterback, this year, to me, it's just like, okay, I don't think they do it. So to me, that combined with how much it's going to cost, with the guys getting overdrafted, with other teams jumping, and keep in mind, other teams like the Broncos, like the Patriots could jump up and try to trade, but it's going to cost you a pretty penny to trade up for a quarterback. So ultimately, I think the Bears just go ahead and draft the safe guy in the first round and ultimately just end up drafting a day 2 guy. And again, that's just where I'm at. I know it's not the sexy answer. I know it's not the hot answer to have. But that's kind of where I'm at, because, again, trading up is going to cost you a lot. And I just don't know if the Bears are going to do it. And I don't know if Ryan Pace is up to that task. And it's funny I'm saying that about Ryan Pace. He is the guy who obviously mortgaged the future for Mitchell Trubisky. But let's see what happens. Let's see what happens, folks. But I'm telling you the price tag right now. You trade up into the top 10, it's going to be this year's first, third, and at least a first next year. It's going to be a lot. So let me know what you guys think. Leave a comment down below if you agree or disagree. Ultimately, I don't believe the Bears trade up. If they do, let's see what happens. But leave a comment down below if you agree or disagree. As always, thanks for watching.